Welcome back to Half A Hot Rods. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. I'm going to show you a couple of different things, because when you're the car guy amongst your friends and family, it's not uncommon that you're going to get asked to maybe go along and look at used cars with them when they go to buy something. I've been asked to do this several times for friends or family, and I'm just going to go through some of the things I look at when I'm looking at these things to try and make sure that we're getting the best deal we can and that we're avoiding stuff that we just absolutely don't want to mess with. So we're going to use this K5 Blazer as an example. This is actually my son's truck, and I didn't look it over as good as I should have initially because I got spoiled when I lived in Colorado and there was very little rust there. So we'll get into that here in just a minute. So the first thing I'm going to do when I look at something is ask questions before I get there. What does it need to be a daily driver? Start asking about the important things if they work. What's important to you is going to be different maybe than what's important to me. Now that I'm in Texas, one of the most important things is, does it have air conditioning? Does the air conditioning work? Because, yeah, you need that. So get that stuff out of the way ahead of time. I don't try and negotiate over the phone because I feel like that's just not cool. It's not a good thing to do. Wait till you get there in person and then talk to them about what they got and what you find. I also ask them not to start it before I get there because I want to see what it does when you start it cold, and if it does anything funky, makes any weird sounds, if it smokes, any of those things. So I get there, I first walk around it, and what I'm looking for is major rust, glass. If any of the windows are busted, windows can be more expensive than you would expect. Windshield is probably one of the most reasonably priced windows. These guys here, these vent windows, I want to say when Wyatt first got this truck, these were out on both sides. They were busted. I think somebody tried to steal it. And to buy them new from a glass shop and have them put in was like $175 a side. It's cheaper to just buy new used doors. So all the glass is pretty good in this. The back window in this one, they came in power or manual. This one is power. The guy told us when we came to look at it that, hey, the motor's out of it, which I would take to mean the window motor is bad. No, he meant the window motor is laying in the back of the truck. What we didn't find out until Wyatt started driving it was that now makes this a manual window. Okay, I can't do it. What I mean by this being a manual window now is if you hold your tongue just right, you can push this up and down with your hands. Wyatt might have jammed something in there to keep it up, or I just haven't figured out the trick. So there's that. Not a big deal if you're not going to use the back space, but really you want everything to work. I don't ever mess too much with the sliding windows. That stuff all looks halfway decent. The next thing I'd look at outside the car is rust. And this one's got a little, or a lot. This is pretty typical for square body trucks to have a little bit of this. This Blazer just happens to have all of it. You can see the rockers are gone. You can see that better if I open the door. Yeah. And this has gotten a little worse over the last year or two since we got it. And then I'm not going to crawl under it because it's wet and muddy under it right now, but the cab supports, the body mounts are rusted out here and there. On the front, we actually trimmed it, cut some of the rust off the back of this fender. You can see it when you look close that that's not a perfect line. That's because I did it. You can see this rust hole, pretty common. And then on the front, we just trimmed it down because we were trimming for bigger tires anyway, so we just cut more than we needed to there. The front bumper has been hacked off by an amateur too. We won't talk about who did that. On the driver's side, more of the same. Like I said, some of the rust has already been cut out. This rocker is mostly there, but we've got a hole here, more starting there. I think what happened is somebody didn't repair it well and then just painted over it, because this gray is a repaint. The reason I know that is you can see all the blemishes in the paint where it was over something else. That's another thing you look for, is whether or not something's been repainted. And usually you can see tape lines in the door jambs and stuff. You can see where it's peeling off. You can see that's pretty common when somebody does a crappy job of masking. They got gray paint on the rubber. So, I mean, yeah, it was all one color, but no, they didn't do a good job at all. It was, you know, from about 40 feet away, if you ignored the rust, it might look kind of okay-ish. Next thing, walking around the outside, look at wheels and tires. Do they all match? Again, that's a small thing, but I really want them all to match right down to being the same brand and size of tire. I mean, especially size, but also brand. And then you can look in the grooves of the tire and see when you get down to these wear bars, you're getting pretty close to worn out. Okay, these ones, that's a lot higher than usual. So these ones are still decent. I would say, you know, depending on how many miles you run, you probably get 6 or 8 months, maybe a year out of that. The exhaust pipe angle is a little wonky, which could mean somebody monkeyed with the exhaust. Don't know who. Alright, outside. It's got a hitch on it. On a pickup truck, if there's a gooseneck plate in it, or a fifth wheel plate, or a ginormous hitch on the back, you know, that means they probably pulled something heavy with it. It probably got worked a little harder. If there's none of that stuff and the bed is completely untouched, that probably means it was just one that went to church or the grocery store or whatever, and we like that because nobody's abused it before we start abusing it. Alright, let's look inside. Inside. Well, we're missing an armrest handle. The interior panel and the door are the wrong color for the truck. So that may just be because somebody put it on there to get rid of some rust. Okay. But did they finish the job? We got no window crank handle, which isn't a good sign. No trim. Oh, a self-tapper. That's classic. That's a sign of an excellent mechanic right there.
Excellent.
Not really. Typical cracked square body dash. I wouldn't let that scare me off. The paint on the interior of this truck is actually really good on the black dash. This stuff's coming off, also pretty common for these trucks. You know, in here I don't see anything that scares me. The tilt column doesn't wiggle all around like some of them do. Oh, here's a window crank handle. So it's just a remote model. Center console. These are always kind of wiggly in these trucks. The seats really don't look bad in it. The interior's not all tore up. Just, you know, a little worn, which you expect in something that's 40 years old. You'd be a little worn too. That seat, yep, it's seen better days, but it'll still hold your butt off the floor. Let's get under the hood. One of the other things I look for in here is I don't see a bunch of wires hanging down. I don't see a bunch of goofy aftermarket speakers. There's some back there. Kenwoods. Those are pretty good. But they're mounted decently. Is the door shut good? Not really. There it goes. Just needed a little encouragement. So we'll pop the hood. Alright. On most of these older, any vehicle, on almost any vehicle, there should be a sticker under the hood somewhere. Could be right here. Could be across here. Could be on an air box if you've got the big plastic air filter box. And it should say what size engine it is. 5.7, 350 cubic inch. This one's gone. You're not missing something. The sticker's gone, but that's where it would be. Look at that, because people don't always know what they're talking about. These trucks came with, the Blazer specifically came with a 350 or a diesel. I think that's it. But the pickups could have had a 305 in them. There's your belt accessory drive routing. Sometimes those will have engine size on them. This one doesn't. But people are always going to say, oh yeah, it's a 350, it's a 350. And it might be a 305 if it's a pickup. V6s, if you're looking at any of the older cars, a lot of those have a little different look. They set in there the same direction longitudinally as a V8, but they're just shorter, and to the untrained eye you might not notice. So check those stickers, look for that engine size, make sure you're getting what you think you're getting. Oh, it's got a chrome air cleaner. It must be fast. Got a brand new battery hold down. Looks like a pretty new battery. Those are both good signs. Under here you want to check fluid levels. Okay, just it tells you about what kind of care they're taking of it. Oh, so even if you're going to look at a car during the day, you need to bring a flashlight, because I can't see down in that radiator that is actually very low. Okay, that's concerning. That means we probably got a leak somewhere. So, yeah, that's pretty low. It's got green coolant in it, which is a good sign. A lot of stuff will have rusty, nasty, muddy looking junk in it, which could lead to other problems. But that's just a little low. It's got a leak. You can see this rubber booger insulator thing has come out of there. Not a huge problem, but you probably want to get it sealed back up so it looks like this guy, so that you don't get stuff inside your heater box and getting inside the truck. It looks like at some point we've had maybe a battery blow up in here, because it's peeled all the paint off this inner fender well and ate it up. I would say that's probably what that is. The battery cables look pretty solid. They're not laying against hot exhaust or anything, so that's good. If you see a spaghetti mess of wiring, all different colors, not held up or anything, those are concerns. This, honestly, is pretty close to the way GM did it. You got some vacuum lines, some windshield washer lines back there. None of that stuff's super scary. Looks like Wyatt's got some wiring that he's zip tied out of the way, which, you know, it's not aesthetically pleasing, it's not pretty, but it's keeping it off the exhaust, which is something he learned the hard way about spark plug wires. So, it's got some newer spark plug wires. It's got a newer cap and rotor, or newer distributor cap, you know, so we'll assume the rotor's new under that. Air filter's not packed full of stuff. All these are indicators that somebody's taken halfway decent care of it. Got a little moisture around the intake, which, again, is pretty normal for these, but, you know, it's something to be aware of and can be used as a bargaining tool. The belt here doesn't look destroyed. I don't see any major leaks. Got some moisture on the power steering gear, but it's not actively puking anywhere. A couple extra wires here and there, but again, it's 40 years old. We don't know how many dozens of people have messed with it. So, and then we can reach down in here, and I would do this carefully, you know, tap on that, make sure it's cold, make sure the guy didn't tell you, yeah, I didn't start it, it's cold. And then exhaust, everything's super cold because Wyatt's driving my truck for some reason today. Alright, well, everything looks halfway okay. The coolant leak, that's a concern. I would for sure use that to negotiate. You don't know where that coolant's going, what's leaking, what's going on here. Even though on an old truck like this with a small block Chevy, I'm not super worried about a coolant leak as long as it's not in the oil. And no, that oil is nice and clean and brown. Now when you're checking the oil, you always want to wipe this off once, whoop, and then jam it back in there and check it again, and then we'll smell it. It smells like oil. This is actually pretty clean because he just did it. If it had coolant in it, it would be a real light tan color, look kind of like chocolate milk. Chocolate milk is bad. We immediately walk away from that car no matter how cool we think it might be. Newer vehicles, well, newer, anywhere from the 80s on up, usually they're going to have yellow somewhere on the engine oil dipstick. This one actually says engine oil. And then usually on automatic transmission, they're going to have red on the dipstick. Same thing applies. Wipe it off, jam it back in there, check it again, smell it. This we're smelling for burnt smell. If you don't know what burnt smells like, it's anytime you've burned something. Had a fire, burned marshmallows. Maybe your mom cooks and uses the smoke alarm as a timer. All those things are similar. Let's see, what else? AC. So naturally the guy said, yeah, it's got AC. Everything's there, it just needs a charge. It never just needs a charge. Never. So, let's see, where's the... This is an AC part? Maybe, I don't know what they're all called. Oh, what's going on here? That doesn't seem right. It's because it's not. AC compressor is missing. We can see through the grill that the condenser is still there, but we don't have a compressor. That's okay. If you're a 16-year-old kid, you don't need AC. Me, I'm an old guy. I need that cool air. Alright, we've looked at all the important fluids. Let's see if we can kick this thing off, see if it'll start. And we're going to listen for weird noises, clicking, tapping, popping, banging, knocking. Yep, definitely somebody's messed with the exhaust. It's got a little growl. I don't know if you can hear that on the camera or not. Not those stupid chickens. But there's a little bit of a whine or a groan from under the hood, like there might be a pulley making some noise. Again, that's not a huge concern because every part for this truck you can get just about anywhere. But it's something to negotiate with and to know you're going to have to deal with in the near future. Because if any of those pulleys lock up because their bearing is going bad in them, then you're going to spit that belt out of there and you're going to have to fix it right now. You're just not going to have any choice. I didn't hear any bad noises when it started. I didn't see any smoke from the tailpipe. Everything looks good there. This is where I'd take it for a drive. Yep, it's got that teenage boy exhaust for sure. So we'd take it for a drive, make sure it goes through all the gears. I know by this that it's got an overdrive transmission, so I'd count them as it shifted, or shift it manually if I needed to. 1, 2, 3, 4. When I got it on a dirt lot or something, I'd pull it into 4 high and then turn it real tight, and you'll feel that front end will hop. It's unmistakable even if you've never felt it before. But it'll kind of grab and jump, and the whole front end of the truck will move funky. That way you know the 4-wheel drive is grabbing and engaging. And then put it back in 2-wheel. He's got one of these super fine stereo holders to make sure that the fan comes on for defrost. Make sure that it changes from defrost to heat. A lot of times you can hear it up there. There it goes. Yep, I can feel it. You know, go around, turn the lights on, walk around and look at the lights, see if your gauges are working. We got almost 60 pounds of oil pressure. We'll come back and check that temperature gauge as it warms up. Looks like we're just under 13 volts. If you've got inspections where you live, then you need to be sure all your lights work, or know that you're going to have to deal with it. And it's a good idea. You can look it up on the internet and find out exactly what your inspection requires to be functional before you get there. And just a little belt squeak. I wouldn't be super worried about it. I like the fact that the hood closes without any extra effort. All the lights seem to work. Now the other part of buying a used car is knowing what you're looking at. And by that I mean kind of knowing the market on them. Some people might look at this and say, well, it's 2 different colors, it's got a ton of rust, and it's just old and it's got a lot of little issues. Well, the more issues it has, generally the more affordable it's going to be. And if this didn't have the rust, and it was all one color, I won't even say that the paint was good, but if it was all one color and didn't have the rust, this is a $5,000 to $5,500 rig all day long, depending on where you're at. With all this stuff, it's probably really worth, you know, in the condition it's in, $3,000 to $3,500. And that's based on if somebody will pay that for it. A car is only worth what somebody's willing to pay. If I had an emotional attachment to this, say it's just like the one my grandpa had, it's the same color, I might be willing to pay a little more for it. I personally try not to buy things based on emotion because you almost always pay too much. But in the end, the price you're willing to pay is entirely up to you. You can look at other ads on the internet and see what people are asking for things. Keep in mind that's what they're asking, not necessarily what they're getting. And you can look in the you know, the blue books, the Kelly Blue Book and the NADA and all that. The problem is the ranges are so broad that it's difficult to get an accurate number from any of those. You know, I think on this truck it ranges anywhere from like 2,000 to 15,000 depending on condition, which I could see any of those numbers being accurate depending on what's done to it and how much is put into it. You know, when you're driving these, you want to pay attention to how much movement there is in the steering wheel. These old trucks, there's almost always going to be some. But if it's, you know, half a turn, that means front end parts are worn. And you're going to have to deal with that because it's going to be a safety issue. If you're feeling vibrations, could be tires, could be driveline, could be lots of things. Depends on how bad it is, when it happens. You know, there's a lot of things that could contribute and cause a vibration in an old truck. Like Wyatt told me when his U-joint was going bad, I just thought it was doing old truck stuff, Dad. I wasn't worried about it. Well, that U-joint was about ready to fall out of this truck. So, you know, these are all the things that I look for when I'm looking at something. It's great if you can look at a car and buy a car from somebody you know, a relative, a neighbor, a friend, somebody that you know you can trust. That's not always the case. If they're not someone you know, don't trust them at their word.
No matter what anyone says, don't trust them.
Look it over. Get somebody to look at it for you. If you really don't know, take it to a mechanic shop and have them look at it. And just say, hey, I want to know everything that's wrong with this because I'm thinking about buying it. Because I'm buying it for me, I'm buying it for my kid, whatever it is you're doing. Anyway, that's something I've done a few times to help out friends and family. And whenever I have the time, I actually like doing it because what's better than shopping for cars with somebody else's money? I actually really enjoy it. So, you know, if that's something that, Hound, leave the cat alone. Do you want to punch in the head? Do you believe this guy was just messing with the cat? Were you messing with the cat? Were you? Were you messing with the cat? Are you ashamed of yourself? You should be ashamed of yourself. Leave the cat alone. Anyway, when you're going to look at these old rigs, look at windows, rust, how's it run, how's it drive, any bad noises, any bad leaks. I don't know what else I can tell you about it, other than you're still going to miss sometimes. You're going to get them home and go, what kind of pile did I buy? And then you have to decide whether you dump it, you sell it to somebody else. Be honest with them. Just tell them, hey, this is more project than I wanted to take on. Here's what's going on with it. More times than not, I've done fine reselling something I bought when I changed my mind about it. But I don't lie to people about what they're getting out of it. Because just because somebody got one over on me don't mean I need to get it over on somebody else. You can do just fine in this car stuff being honest with people and not take a huge loss every other day. Just be cool, be honest with people, and don't try and rip anybody off. This truck, it's rusty, but the drivetrain is solid. And that's what I'd tell people if I was selling it. It is rusty. It has all of the normal square body rust. But it's still fun. You pull that top off, put the windows down, cruise it around in the summertime. It's absolutely a blast. It's a cool old truck. Well, I think that's all I've got for this video. It's kind of an odd video this week. We were out of town for Thanksgiving, and I didn't actually put any hours in the shop this week. So that was kind of nice to have a little break. We'll be getting back after it pretty quick here. Getting back to work on Tucker's truck and Maverick's LS Swap Square Body Dually. And, oh yeah, the mystery truck. Hopefully be doing some serious moves on that pretty soon. So check back with us. Hound! Yeti! Yeti! I hope these cats kick your butt. Yeti! Leave the cat alone. Oh, the cats want to be your best friend. Joe Martin doesn't have to deal with this, does he? Does he? Anyway, we'll be getting back to work on all the projects I've got in and around the shop. I've got a couple other ones lined up. I've actually got more projects lined up than I have hours in the day. So we'll be getting back with you here next week, hopefully with some new progress on some of the old projects. If you like what we're doing, go ahead and like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you don't like what we're doing, send it to people you don't like. Maybe they'll hate it too. Anyway, check us out on Instagram, check us out on Facebook, check us out on TikTok, and until next time, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.